Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Life by Life West. I'm Dr. Ron Oberstein, president of Life West, and I've got two really great people with me. Of course, I got my partner in health and life, Dr. Mary Oberstein. Welcome, Mary. And we have a guest with us today on this segment who's someone that's very special to us. I don't know, I guess we could say we've watched you grow up in chiropractic, right? You know, in San Diego, and it's Dr. Steph Libs. Steph is an incredible person, more incredible person than she is a chiropractor, and she is a incredible chiropractor. She graduated in 2013, so her 9-year anniversary is coming up this March. She practices, as I said, in San Diego. She's ICPA certified. She's also a lactation consultant, which she's going to talk to us about that and how that ties into what she's doing. She's got a really very successful practice in San Diego, taking care of kids, pregnant moms, very niche oriented, and just doing absolutely phenomenal. As we said, she's married. I didn't say this yet, but she's married to a chiro kid who's not a chiropractor, but he's a chiropractic spouse. His name is Dean Libs, and they have two beautiful children, the ages of 3 and 5. And she's juggling a lot and doing a lot and just making a huge difference in San Diego. And now she'll be making a huge difference in the profession when we kind of share at the end what she's doing. So, Steph, welcome. It's really great to have you on the Life West Leadership Line.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. You guys are like, I'm such like a fangirl, so this is so exciting.
we hear that sometimes. I don't know. You know, it's like, anyways, and it's so cool because you are in our hometown of San Diego, and you're just doing amazing things. What are you, like two blocks from the beach or something like that? I don't know.
About 5 blocks.
5 blocks. I'm sorry, those extra 3 blocks added on. It's just and it's so cool to see people just flocking and leaving and going into your practice and all the things that are happening. It's just really neat. And so thank you for carrying the message and for delivering, vitalistic chiropractic to all those pregnant moms and pre and postnatal and all those kids that are there.
Thank you so much. I feel really lucky to do what we do. And I mean, chiropractic is like, I feel like I don't work. I know you guys feel the same. It's just so fun to do this and to like really niche down and have the practice of my dreams. It's just a dream come true. So it's really fun.
Well, and Steph, when your name comes up, it's synonymous with babies, pre and postnatal women, and I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk about your practice and kind of dive in there and get a little deeper. So tell us a little bit, about the practice and who you're seeing.
Yeah. So, well, I will say I was super influenced by Jeannie Ohm when I was in school. Of course, she was a huge influence in my life and in the way I practice. And there's probably not a day that goes by in my practice that I don't think about her. I'll be adjusting someone, someone who's pregnant, and like something will come into my head of like, oh, she said this in the seminar. So that's just a little side note. She was a big deal for me. And so for my practice, when I first started, I started as like, just general chiropractor, but I always branded myself as a pediatric and prenatal specialist. So what that did is it kind of opened the door of conversation for people when they would get my card or my website. They'd say, oh, I didn't know you could see babies. I didn't know that was a thing. So that just created, a little bit of a growth factor from the start. But I started as like general family practice. And then as I started to, make a name for myself and create more referrals and more connections in my community, then I was really able to like niche down to families, to pregnancy, to babies. And now with the work that I'm doing with breastfeeding, that's like really, really my specialty. And so I kind of became known in my town as like the breastfeeding doc, like you take your breastfeeding baby to Dr. Steph. And so from there, I decided to get the credentials to be an official lactation consultant. So I don't actually practice as a lactation consultant. I just build in all the breastfeeding support into the chiropractic care that we do. So I'm really just doing chiropractic for breastfeeding babies. So I've got a little bit of the, credibility in my town of like having these designated credentials.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very cool.
Yeah,
So, and I would think that, every midwife in town knows you, and everybody who's, has anything to do with lactation, right?
I would definitely hope so.
That's the plan. I love it. I love it.
Well,
So,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ron. This is always a question that comes up when we talk to chiropractors who really focus on, pregnancy and breastfeeding and babies. And it's kind of a silly question, but I just want to hear your answer. You take care of men as well, because a lot of the dads come in, correct? So
right.
But you do turn people away.
Funny.
That's my question.
So I don't, well, it is kind of an interesting question. So people do ask me that a lot too. Do you see dads? I'm like, for men. And yes, I do. But I've been so lucky that I've worked really hard and built this practice. And I am so busy now that when you will only take babies or pregnant moms. And actually right now in the next couple of weeks, I'm only taking babies. So I'm lucky enough that I've been able to grow and like really, really focus down. So anybody else who calls in, I'll have my associates start with, and we'll still see the whole family. I really run my practice as a family practice. So even our payment plans are designed for entire families. So we do really want everyone to get in, because my philosophy, which I'm sure just like your guys is if the whole family is well adjusted and subluxation free, like everybody's going to heal exponentially. So that's what I really want to cultivate in my practice.
Yeah. It's interesting too. And I think Mary, it was Lauren, our daughter, Lauren, who said to us, because she's got her husband who's in practice, right? And they share a practice, right? But I think she said that she doesn't, her niche is, infants and then pre and postpartum women, right? And if the husband wants to come in, or the older, kid wants to come in, whatever it might be, it's like, yep, you're more than welcome to come in, but you'll see Dr. Matt, kind of thing. It's just, and I love how the balance is there. And same thing with you, that you will take care of everyone. And you're so true.
Yeah.
I just want to show you this because you mentioned Jeannie Ohm. So that I have this on my desk, and it's a picture of Jeannie. Yes. And Jeannie, as you know, and the beautiful thing on the front, because Jeannie's favorite, 3 words were life expresses intelligence, and so she is a big influence on a lot of people, and I'm thrilled that she was an influence in your life, because that woman was just magic, as far as getting the message out, and you're doing it in a big way. And I know Jeannie, and I'll just tell this to you, she'd be very proud of what you're doing and how you're doing it. Talk about this, because I think our viewers would want to know. You decided to kind of narrow down, right? And just kind of hit this niche, right? Of, we're going to be doing this, and now into lactation and breastfeeding and things like that, where you're getting known as the breastfeeding doc. How did they come to you? Like, how was it just something innately hit you, or was there was it by design or default? Is the question.
Very good question. Probably a little bit of both. Well, so, definitely when I was at Life West, just the philosophy of, how it's taught at Life West, for me, really makes sense to start with day one of life, and even conception, preconception, and all that. So I think that being at Life West, I had so many great influential people, including Jeannie Ohm, that like every miracle story that someone would tell at Friday seminar was always an infant, was always a newborn. Mm-hmm. And so that really piqued my interest. And so, I went down the path of the ICPA program and went through all that, which I think was phenomenal. And so that's kind of where it started. And then being in practice, I kind of had this idea at first of like just a big family practice, see everybody, see the whole family. And then I started realizing I do my best work with babies and pregnant moms. And like, that's where I really thrive. That's where I feel my best. And so for me, I feel like I owe it to my community. I owe it to my profession to do the absolute best work that I can and really dive in and be as good as I can be and learn as much as I can, because I feel I owe it to these people. I owe it to the profession. And I think when we do that, we really step into like this really authentic way of practicing for ourselves. Like, it just makes chiropractic look better to the world, you know, because we're getting better results. We're getting the word out more. And so that's kind of what happened for me. As far as the lactation route, I was seeing, you know, so many families in my practice, and then I would refer to lactation consultants who practice in the community. But what I found is a lot of them didn't really understand chiropractic. And so there's a chiropractor somewhere in the Midwest, Elizabeth Berg, and she was becoming a lactation consultant. And I took some of her courses, and I was like, wait, you can do this? And as chiropractors, we have all the prerequisites. We have all the clinical hours if you see moms and babies in your practice, to literally just sign up for the course and take the international board exam. And so I was like, I'm just going to go for it and do it. Now, doing it with 2 tiny little kids at home, I might've been a little crazy, but I just went for it anyway. And so what I've done with that is now every Monday morning, it's actually in the other room right now, we have a free breastfeeding support group at my office. So people from the community come. And then I've got a whole team of moms who are training to become lactation consultants. So they run the group, they're getting their clinical hours, they're understanding chiropractic. It's like a whole machine that's kind of like feeding into just creating this community of more holistic, beautiful chiropractic healthcare for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And speaking from a man's point of view, just on an observational level, strictly, you know, I mean, with, 2 daughters that have kids, and no matter how prime you are to have kids, no matter how educated you are, there's always questions around breastfeeding. Always.
Oh,
You know?
gosh.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter, you know, I mean, it's almost like you got an audience out there or of people who, even am I doing it right? You know, like there's no manual, right? So it's kind of like, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's really been so fun to really step into this. And I think there are so many, just the way that birth is typically done in hospitals, and there's not a lot of support for birth, but then there's, I think, even less support for breastfeeding. And something that seems so natural can be really, really challenging. And so I think as chiropractors, we have a really unique opportunity to work with these families, because they typically, especially if you see them for their pregnancy, they typically trust us. They know the work that we're doing is gentle, specific, it's safe, and it's so unique from anything else, and it gets killer results. So, I just think that we have a good opportunity to serve these families in a totally different way than anybody else.
Yeah, which I think is so cool. And, I just want to give a shout out to you, Steph, that for all of our viewers to know that at Life West, we took 2 or 3 rooms, I believe. Was it 3? 3 rooms, and made them into
3.
Yeah, we have now the Libs Lactation Lounge. And thank you. You donated the money toward it. The sorority was like just so behind it, and they painted and did all kinds of stuff. And with your financial support, we have a place now where our breastfeeding moms can go, and even the changing room. I believe there's a changing room there also. So just so that our moms who are here with newborns in school, going through school, have a place that they can go and just sit back. And these rooms are gorgeous, and just sit back and be able to just, relax and get some time with their baby. Right. And so thank you for coming up with that and making that happen and being the visionary behind that and the support, because it's super important.
Thank you. Well, I have to say, there was a student, she just graduated, Diana Tapnio. It was all her idea. And she just messaged me on Instagram asking for some advice and like book recommendations for the room. And I was like, hold up, I want to get involved in this. And so I will also say, like, I'm so not blowing smoke, but I really feel like Life West gave me such an amazing education, and that's what's made me so successful in practice. And like, oh my God, I'm gonna get emotional thinking about it, because it's just such a beautiful experience that I had at Life West. And I really think that it played into my ability to be a successful chiropractor. And I wouldn't be where I am without my education at Life West. And so I'm really happy and really proud that I've been able to build this great practice. And now I have the financial ability to write a big check to the school and help with a cause that I hold so dearly. So I'm just really grateful for my whole experience.
Yeah. And, and thank you for saying that. And thank you, giving back really creates something within ourselves that when we give, it creates that.
Yeah.
You can't explain it. I mean, how do you explain it? The feeling that you have knowing that you gave to this, to whatever, something near and dear to someone's heart, and that it's being used by people, and it's a beautiful thing. So that's so cool. And so thank you for that. And in the meantime, you're looking at all these things you're doing. You're number one, you're practicing. Number two, number one, you're a wife and a mom, right? That's number one, right? Number two is, you're practicing. Number three is you're learning, because I know you're a lifelong learner. Number four is, you're starting, which we'll talk about later, teaching and getting people into, learning more about how that they can serve their communities better. You've got associate doctors, you're doing all these things. There's got to be some kind of magic wand that you do to keep that balance, because that balance is huge, and a lot of times our viewers should know this, for instance, Mary and myself, when we had babies, it was very easy. She just stepped out, and then I just stepped in more, I leaned in more and took more hours on and did that. And we always ran with an associate doctor. And then when it was ready to come back in, she was ready, but you don't have that luxury. And, so how do you keep the balance? Like, what is it that, that you're doing and something, and what you can share?
Yeah. So, well, I always feel so like mixed on this question, because I feel like in a way there's a way to achieve balance, but in a way there's like no way to achieve balance. So I feel so like of two minds about it. But I think that like I would say I run my practice a lot more casually than a lot of other chiropractors do. That doesn't mean we're like flying by the seat of our pants, but I have like really simple procedures. We try not to overcomplicate anything. I really don't like redoing things. That's like my biggest pet peeve. I don't want to redo anything. So I like to do things right the first time and just leave it. So I would say that helps. But at the same time, like being able to go with the flow, and my schedule does look different every day of the week. So I like that. But I also hired two amazing associates who I absolutely love so much, Life West graduates, of course. Like I wouldn't be able to do it without them. So for me, I feel like I've been able to build to a level of success that I can hire a team, and I cannot do it alone. And so, I love that I have this like team of like all female badass women who are really just in it to support each other. And so the associate game, I think, can sometimes be a little bit like difficult to navigate, but I really just believe like if everybody is on the same page and like in it to be a team, like I don't want to be the boss, I want to just be a team member with everybody else. And so I love collaborating with other people, getting other people's ideas, and empowering people to make decisions for the practice. So it's not just me dictating. I think that goes a really long way. And then being able to set up times where like we can all cover for each other. And, since my husband's not a chiropractor, I can't just step out quite as easily, but I know that I can leave for, a day, and my associates can cover, and like make people are getting the best care. So I think that makes a huge difference. And I think it takes like working to a certain level of success to afford that, and being able to get uncomfortable and grow. And that kind of takes you to the next step of balance.
Yeah. And I mean, hearing you talk, obviously the word that came to mind before was community. Like you've built a very supportive community, but now hearing you talk is like the team specifically Like you're that team, and I know who your team is. And it's really cool that you set that up and you found the right people to be part of this team, because I feel that I've been to your office, I've been adjusted at your office. And you guys are you're like a family. You're like sisters.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that you said you're the only one with children. So, you know, I know also that when things have come up for you and you said, hey, I need coverage, they go, okay, we've got this.
Right.
Which, I mean.
Yeah. And I think it's such a, like, I love that we're all in that place with each other. And, you know, I know my associate docs are going to want to have babies. And so that's the other thing, like setting
we hope so,
where we can work that out. Right.
So I have a question.
I want everyone to have babies. So I was able to bring my son with me for about 6 months when I came back into practice, and everybody and, you know, my patients would all hold him and my staff would hold him and put him to sleep. And, you know, and I was able to stop and take breaks and breastfeed him. And so I really want to cultivate that for my team too. You know, we're already a family practice with babies everywhere. So why wouldn't we bring our babies too? So my first daughter, that would not have happened. She would not have been into it. But my second, he was all about it.
So Steph, tell me something, because I think that I think our listeners and our viewers would, you know, this is something that'd be really good for them to hear. What does it look like when you're out of balance? You know, the raw question, like, you know, because you got a lot of balls in the air, right? So you could be out of balance in the business, you could be out of balance in your, you know, in your teaching, you could be out of balance, you know, with your family, with your kids, you could be out of balance with your spouse. I mean, and a combination, you know. But what's it look like? What are your your tells, your signs, and what do you do to pull back in?
So for me, it looks like overwhelm. And that's usually when I feel so overwhelmed. I've got too many things and I need to put something on pause. And that's the time, Mary, we were talking before, like, say yes when you want to say yes and no when you want to say no. And so that's something that I'm learning, because before kids, I would just say yes to everything. Like, yes, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that. And now I realize I can't do that, you know? Yeah. So being able to say no to a lot of things, I just had a thing I was going to get involved in. And I was like, you know what, this is just not the right time. So for me, when I get overwhelmed, I forget stuff. I forget to message people back. I get behind on things. And again, I like to keep things really, really simple. And so if I'm getting to that point, I know I just need to do less. And sometimes that means taking on less patients too. So like I just told my staff for the next 2 weeks, I only want to take babies as new patients, nobody else. Everybody else can see the associates. I don't want to do it right now. And so for me, that gives me a little breathing room.
Mm-hmm. And what's it look like on the outside? Like, you know, do you see that you're out of balance based on, you can feel it, but obviously by the time you feel it, the symptoms are already there, but you're probably, it's expressing somewhere else, like whether you see it in your kids or whether you see it in your spouse, you know, what's it look like so our people can kind of see that reality?
Oh yeah. I mean, with the kids, it definitely just looks like tantrums and difficult bedtimes. And, you know, just yesterday we had this like whole fun family day planned. And my 5-year-old was just a crank face all day long. And so, you know, sometimes it just happens. I know you guys know, it's like, you just have to roll with it. So those are, just the realities. It's not going to look like roses and, rainbows and sunshine every day. But I also think, like, I try and be very real about things. Social media is a place where everything does look, filtered and pretty. But also, like, I do struggle with a lot of things. I had a lot of postpartum depression and anxiety after my first baby, and a lot of people don't talk about that. But, I came back to work at 11 weeks and, I was still bleeding for a very long time, and I pushed myself when I shouldn't have. And, all of those things that for me, I didn't have the practice set up to really be a mom at first. And so it took a lot of time and a lot of tweaks and finding the right team to like tweak it the way it really works. But it was definitely a struggle. And I appreciate this question so much, Ron, because I have so many male colleagues who have kids and they're like, oh, I remember having kids. I remember how difficult it was being in practice. I remember those days. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you've never bled through your pants while you're like, adjusting a baby while they're crying. I'm pretty sure you haven't been so engorged that you're like your boobs are popping out of your bra. Like, I love all the men. I love them. But like, it's just a different set of struggles that we have to deal with, and a different set of like, our schedule's got to be different. We've got to allow for pumping breaks if we go back to work. So it's just a whole different level, right?
Yeah. And it really is. And I want to, and thank you, because we can have a whole discussion just on that, right? And but the reality is that
Mary's like, yeah.
I mean, we can, because the reality is that it's very different for a woman, in her childbearing years, in handling toddlers and from newborns to toddlers to then the kids get into school, and it's just the way society is set up. It's there's a balance that has to take place, and I am so thrilled that because I've watched you do this, how you've just managed it, and I'm so glad that you said that it's not all sunshine and roses. It just isn't, but if you work and keep perceiving and keep finding your balance and doing like you just said, I'm just doing newborns, I'm going to slow my schedule down, whatever it is, taking care of you is taking care of your people the best, and that's the most important thing.
Well, I think it's hard. I think what makes it difficult being a woman, again, having kids and a chiropractor, is we're in a profession where we're not sitting behind a desk all day, right? Where no one sees us and we're just making phone calls. We're with people. Right. They can hear us, feel us, see us, smell us. They can sense our energy. Yeah. We really have to bring pretty decent energy to this job. And like you said, if you have, you've got a cranky toddler, you've got engorged breasts, you're going through all these changes with your own body, plus just the emotional stuff with having a husband that you're trying to, keep a priority in your kids. It's a lot. It's a lot to show up as your best self. Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah. And not to diminish any man and their experience, but I think it is just a different set of challenges that we have to adapt for. And very often the general advice in chiropractic or the way things are set up for most are not necessarily conducive to new moms. And so we just have to adapt and make it work for us, and that's going to look different for everybody, but it's important to like find what that is for yourself and then do it that way. It doesn't have to look like everybody else. When I was a student in school, I went to Dr. Michelle Arrieta's practice when she was in Petaluma. She's now in the Sacramento area, but I went to her practice to visit and walked in and it was this old barn house and converted into this beautiful office building. And it was like vintage and rustic. And it blew my mind, because to me, everybody just gets a spot at a strip mall and like walls have to be beige. All the walls are beige and that's it, and you have your subluxation poster and your nerve poster, and like, that's what everybody does. But I walked into her practice and it was like nothing and it just like totally opened my mind of, we can make this look however we want to make it look. And so that was just like a big eye opener for me of like, this, we can make it exactly as we want to make it. So
and I think it's important for especially our students and young graduates, or not even young, any graduates, any chiropractors who are looking to have children and looking to have a family. It's important. These are the questions that are in their minds that they might not necessarily ask. And being that, 50% of our students right now, and probably moving into our profession, is, our females. It's, it's huge. And I think it's a beautiful thing. You guys talked about at the beginning, you can have it any way you want to. So there's nothing to hold us back because it's our canvas, right? And you can paint it any way you want to and design your hours the way you want to, and people are still going to come. I think the key is take care of yourself. And if you're taking care of yourself, then you could take care of others, and you could have a morning practice, an evening practice. It doesn't matter, It's so cool. And Steph, thank you for being a beacon, because you might not hold this. It's kind of like people say to Mary and I, oh my God, you guys, people look at you and and like, we don't see that, but you might not see it. But I'm telling you, there are, chiropractors, recent graduates and students, and, people have been out for, 5 years, and they look at you, Steph, because they know you, and they're just going, my gosh, look how she's doing this. And, and there's so much that we could be teaching them. And I know you are, right? You started a course that you're doing, right? We'll flash it on the bottom, but at drstephlibs.com. So they can go to that and see the great work that you're putting out, and that you're going to be putting more and more out as you go, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely hope so. A lot of fun.
Yeah, great stuff. So thank you. We're going to end. We kind of hit our witching hour, but we've got 2 questions that we want to ask you before we sign off.
Okay.
So it's very simple. Dr.
The first question I want to ask you is, what advice would you give yourself as a chiropractic student, if you could go back and talk to yourself, to that young that young gal at Life West? To her right now.
First quarter student, huh?
Right. First quarter student. Oh gosh. Well, I will say I really loved my time at Life West, and I'm not sure that I would change much, maybe a few things. But for me, I really dove into the philosophy and really got a good grounding in that. So if I were to go back, I would say maybe take myself a little less seriously and have a little bit more fun, but really just diving in and learning the philosophy, because there are so many great people and resources at Life West that the philosophy is what grounds us and keeps us focused in practice, and it keeps me going. And so I think that would be the biggest thing,
cool.
Just get really, really seeped into that philosophy.
Okay.
Cool. Second question, same scenario. It's where you are right now, Dr. Steph Libs, going back and talking to the new graduate, the new doctor, Dr. Steph Libs. What advice would you give yourself from what you know now, and what would you say to yourself as the new doctor?
Ooh, let's see. That's a good one. I would say just be real. And I say that I really tried to put on this doctor coat, didn't wear a coat, but tried to be a doctor and be very professional and have my table talk and make it very professional. And it just didn't feel right to me. If somebody comes in asking, how you doing today? I mean, I'm not going to spill all my dirt, but we don't need to have such canned responses. Into my more authentic self, that's really when my practice grew. And I think, I will say I am scripted, but not scripted. So I have, sort of my typical responses for people, but making it real and a real human and not a robot, I think people really appreciate. So if I could give myself that advice, it would be just be real.
I love it. I love it.
Right. Great advice.
Thank you for the real conversation.
Cool.
We definitely had a real conversation. And we so appreciate you. And, we've hit that time, and to our viewers, thank you, for constantly looking in. We're at somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 views an episode, and we appreciate it. It's because of you sharing this videos and sharing the webcasts and things that we're doing. We love and appreciate you, and we'll keep bringing you great people like Dr. Steph Libs to our Life by Life West. And we drop a Life by Life West every other week. And the week in between that, the every other week between that, we drop a life leadership line. And we just love that you're sharing us and keep coming back. We love and appreciate you. Thank you, Steph, and thank you, Mary, for being with and for creating such a great show today. And I do know this, we keep putting out people like Dr. Steph Williams and Dr. Mary and I. The one thing that we talk about at nighttime is the future of chiropractic. And Steph, I got to tell you, with people like yourself, we do not worry at all about the future of chiropractic. So thank you for that. I really mean that. And to everybody else, keep loving those people. Yeah. Keep loving those people around you and taking care of everyone that you know how to, and keep showing up as your authentic self and keep growing chiropractic so that we can make this world a much healthier, happier, and saner place to live. So until our next episode, for myself, Dr. Mary, and Dr. Steph, we'll bid you adieu and keep on keeping on.